Today I'm going to be making good on what I said I was doing in the first video I uploaded. I'm going to be making some terrain for my homebrew setting. I found these in B&Q. They were like £1 each, and they're just perfect. They're like the exact scale, shape, everything I need. They've even got little they've basically already got doors. I just need to get rid of these little bits. And it's all Warhammer scale, or D&D scale, or whatever scale I end up using. So what I'm actually making is a modular system I can use to represent the primary location in this homebrew setting I've created. The lore is, commerce is so influential in history. It's no wonder that in a world full of time travel, the most prolific faction would be a shopping centre. They build these hypermall buildings in every timeline, in every time period, sometimes even millions of years before sentient life evolves to be able to buy anything. They sell literally everything from every time, ever. Out in the Pangean jungle, these hypermalls are basically small towns, their mid-century modern cement walls being the only thing protecting shoppers and sellers within from the hordes of dinosaurs outside. Wherever the players go in this campaign, there will be a hypermall of some kind nearby, so it's really useful to have a bunch of these modules to just throw together. I filled the gaps under the ridges of these boxes with conveniently sized foam core boards. I ended up hating the foam core. It's just so jagged on the edges. I don't have the right tools to cut it. And it's got this sort of like paper over it. I think I just got the wrong foam core. I just ripped it off, and I'm throwing on this foam, which is used for making puppets. It's just what I had lying around. Can't really wait or afford to get new foam just for this. These are little electrical boxes. These are what plugs and switches in your wall go into, if you didn't realise. Now this foam that I've replaced the old foam with, it wasn't perfect. It had a much better texture. It was a bit too spongy, but also I kind of like that because it made it less likely to be damaged, but it was also slightly thicker, which meant they didn't quite fit together as nicely. I'm using just regular filler that you use on your wall to fill in these gaps, and also to try and make this foam a little less like a cushion and a bit more like a terrain. I'm using gloopy glue to put down a bit of foam on the floor here, sort of give it a bit of a lino sort of floor texture, but also fill in all those weird marks around the bottom of the box. Going over that with some Mod Podge and black paint. I went a bit overboard, you'll see later. Shouldn't really have put Mod Podge on the inner walls. They're already smooth, they didn't need Mod Podge. But the Mod Podge on the outside didn't really hurt. Even if I leave brush marks on, it'll still kind of pass as cement. Here you can see how lumpy it is on the inside even after I've spray painted it. I used some cement sort of texture spray paint for the outer walls and just some white spray paint on the inner walls. I'm not too worried about the lumpiness, I'm just cover that up with furniture. Here I've masked off this shop. I'm going to put a checker red and white floor pattern. This one's going to be a sort of fast food restaurant. It's called Dino Burger. They sell burgers made of dinosaurs. The lore of this one is that it was founded by Charles Darwin. Historical figures are frequently bothered by time travelers. They showed Charles Darwin his theory of evolution before he even came up with it, which sort of left him with nothing else to do. You might know that Charles Darwin was a member of the Gluttony Club, where they ate endangered and rare animals. Now with access to time travel, he sort of just lent into that aspect of his life, going back in time and coming up with thousands of recipes to eat extinct species, eventually founding the notorious Dino Burger, an anchor unit in every hypermall. This masking tape didn't do a very good job. I've actually had this masking tape since I was in art college. It was a bit naff then, and it sort of lost its stick since, so it let quite a lot of the paint get under it. I'm just making this a real greasy room with some brown oil wash. I'm also going over this other building with that brown oil wash. Just sort of make it look like people have been smoking in there, really, if you get what I mean by that. Just adding some blue carpet to this one. And some black carpet to this other room. It's not actually carpet, by the way, it's just felt. I've got these magnet toys just lying around. It doesn't strictly need magnets. I think it still counts as a modular system without them, but they're really satisfying and it makes them all line up correctly. So I just put magnets in the sides of every building. Here it is, just very fun to play with this, just to rearrange them. I've only got 3 at the moment, I want to make quite a lot. Just making some vague cement concrete texture, just random dark grey swipes. And then some white paint dry brush to go over that. Don't forget to dry brush something else for a couple of swipes before you put it on your actual terrain or model, so you don't get that big splodge when you first do it. This looked alright, considering I had no idea what I was doing, I was just guessing. Here I've got some streaking grime. I figured if you're going to be able to see the magnets anyway, might as well make it look like it's intentional. They're sort of like it's sort of rebar, rusting, metal conduits of some kind, some industrial something or other. And I think that makes it look kind of interesting, very grungy. I wasn't quite sure about how this turned out. I put black around the borders to sort of frame them like it's a picture. I think it would have looked a lot better if the foam wasn't thicker than the lips. I've just sort of planned a layout for the furniture I'm going to build with bits of paper, just so I know how big it's going to be. I'm using this card stock. This card is actually for mounting like paintings and pictures. It's just what I found in the range. It was really cheap. For some of this, I think that hobby thin wood would have been better, but I can't find that for a reasonable price anywhere around me. This is just what I had. It works alright, pretty naff in some corners. I don't have nice tools or measurement tools or cutting tools, so I'm doing most of this by eye, and I'm also getting glue everywhere, making things really lumpy. This is a desk, by the way. It's for the blue building, the Cryo Way. The reason everything in this setting takes place on the ancient supercontinent of Pangaea is basically the world comes to its natural man-made conclusion at some point in the future. Hypermole saw this coming, being a time travel company, and instead of preventing the end of the world, they started a new subsidiary to offer commercial time travel to Pangaea to sort of start society over again. Time travel's complicated though. They tend to overshoot their mark, so the safest way to go that far back in time is to be frozen and defrosted when you arrive. They didn't just offer trips to Pangaea. To those desperate enough and poor enough, they sent back to an even older supercontinent of Rodinia as a sort of advanced party to gather the resources and build the infrastructure for the privileged Pangaea party later on. The Rodinia settlers were actually serfs, a sort of slave, and they revolted and started their own civilization out on the frozen ocean of Morovia at the time. For reference, Rodinia was about 700 million years before Pangaea, so the Rodinian settlers are an ancient, long-dead civilization to the Pangaeans. I wanted this building to have 2 doors on either end, because it would logically lead into a larger area where there would be lots of cryopods and stuff. I've just cut apart a toothbrush because honestly it was the first thing I saw that looked vaguely like a sink. I'm just using super glue and the bicarbonate of soda method just to give it a really strong and instant bond, because it didn't really want to stay in that paper. The hole was quite tight. Then I'm Mod Podging around the seal on the top of the sink to make it sort of smooth. Using some bent wire to make a tap and some little sequins to make the little tap handles. I put little bits of foam between the card when I'm sticking them together at 90-degree angles just to give me more surface area, and because it glues to the foam a lot better than it does to the card, it just makes it easier. make a little fake oven door there with a bit of paper. And some little more sequin thingies to make the hob. Just building just random shelves and sort of tables, surfaces. These bits of furniture, they could really be used all sorts of places. It all fits in nicely. I'm padding this bit of card with a bit of that foam core that I didn't like, just because I wanted more width, and this was easier than building a box out of cardboard. Mod Podging that foam, and then I'm Mod Podging these like little beads that I've put little styrene tubing in. These are all going to be like perfume bottles and makeup bottles. I glued them to the table because it was easier. They roll around, and if I spray painted them, they would have gone absolutely everywhere. Just, this is behind the scenes. My table gets very messy and I just sand it down. I keep sanding it down. That's why it keeps changing so much between every single video. And yes, there is a slight divot in the table from me doing this over time. The third shop that all those perfume and makeup bottles belongs to is called Femme Fatale. The most dangerous place in any hypermall is actually the cosmetics aisle, as they sell every product from history, and Pangaea is technically millions of years before health and safety regulations. They end up selling a lot of cyanide lipstick, arsenic blush, lead foundation, acid tonic, even uranium hair dye. To the players, this is basically the place to go to stock up on lethal chemicals. I'm just painting all the furniture now. Some of it with quite cheap paint, some of it with nice Vallejo paint, as you might be able to tell which is which by how easily it goes on. How difficult it is in some places, but I do my best to make it work. It takes a long time. Just sort of making this computer sort of yellowed. Again, I don't like things being too squeaky clean, which kind of leans into the fact that everything's a bit naff and broken from the way I've built it. There's also a sort of a unique kind of retro-futurism at play here, being that Hypermall and most of Pangaea, the most popular interior decorating style is something called 20th Century Revival, where they treat every decade between the 1900s and the 1990s as if it was all one homogeneous long event. Sort of the same way people in today view the 1800s or even the whole medieval period as if it was all one big thing. So there's a lot of what people might call anachronisms. Just to our eyes, it looks completely out of place, but to the eyes of a time traveler, it makes no difference. I'm just dirtying this all up with oil wash. It really sort of brings it to life as soon as that oil wash goes into the cracks and the crevices. I'm just streaking griming this kitchen surfaces to make them look all greasy. I'm kind of leaning into the fact that I spilt super glue all over them that already made them look lumpy, and I'm just painting that brown to make it look like rust. To be honest, but yeah, it looks disgusting. Very poor health and safety standards in Dino Burger for sure. It's even all on the walls as well. I realised that it makes this room slightly less universally useful to me, but it sort of tells a story, the way the grease is up all on the walls right above where the kitchen's gonna go. Just making two bottles of uranium hair dye, the rest can be up to imagination. And I've put little green felt on those tables to sort of give an air of luxury. I got these logos and posters printed out at just the photo printing thing at Boots. It's sort of, the quality is very disappointing. You can't really read the menu at all. Not a lot I could do about that. It's all I really have at hand. I don't have a printer. Don't know where else to go. And it's not really that important either. I'm just Mod Podging over the top of these to sort of take away the gloss. And this is basically all done.
Bye.